Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Force here with some more StarCraft 2 commentary. Today we'll be looking at a game between aLive and Liquid Jinro. This is going to be a Terran versus Protoss, Liquid Jinro versus aLive here on the map Shakuras Plateau. And let's go ahead and get started with some recent tournament information. Starting over here in the lower right-hand spawn position, we've got our blue Protoss player aLive. Took first place at the IGN Pro League Season number 4 in April of this year. Also took first place at the Raid Call Invitational number 2 in March of this year. His opponent over here in the lower left-hand spawn position is our red Terran player, Liquid Jinro. Unfortunately, Liquid Jinro not really having any major tournament showings in quite a while. Back in January 2011, he was a semi-finalist at the Sony Ericsson GSL Code S. He was also a semi-finalist at the 2010 Sony Ericsson StarCraft 2 Open Season number 3. And then lastly, he did take first place at MLG Dallas, but this was all the way back in November of 2010. So again, really not having any strong showings of major tournaments in quite a while. Nevertheless, though, Jinro is a very strong player, and I am looking forward to getting this game underway, as always. Pylon down here for aLive. Starts to warp in that gateway, and we'll be immediately moving out with that probe scout. Keep an eye and spot which direction he does decide to move in. And Jinro is about 3/4 of the way finished to that first Arax, and actually going to start off that full wall off. Just barely, though. Gets that full wall by starting to lay down that supply depot, then pulls off and moves out with the SCV scout. Now aLive did grab the tower. He's now moving down over here to try to prevent Jinro from scouting him out. Very neat little tricky move here by aLive. Unfortunately, it doesn't really matter though, because again, as we saw, Jinro did start to finish that wall off there with this partial supply depot, and that will prevent the probe from making its way into the main. So all that trickery for nothing. Again, unfortunately enough for aLive. His thought process there was that if Jinro didn't scout a probe moving by, that quite possibly he would not have been so urgent to finish that wall off. But as you can see, Jinro just getting prepared nice and early, gets that partial wall off, and then finishes it off once he was done at that Rax. First Marine now popped out. Will be trying to prevent any additional scouting, which he should be able to do. SCV scout in the main here for Jinro. You can see he's got a full scout of the base. Spots the one assimilator. Also spots that cyber core coming through. Wouldn't be too surprised if we saw a 1-gate expand here from aLive. Pretty much what I'm going to expect right now. Corona boosting out that first stalker as well as that warp gate research. Jinro should be hightailing it out of there sometime soon. Jinro now building that command center down over here at his natural expansion. Does have those 2 Marines guarding the ramp. Now he will likely need to come out with a bunker to prevent any stalker pressure from doing much damage. Although if he gets a full line here, actually, if you do a full line of those Marines at the top of the ramp, you can make it so that once the stalker actually gains vision, the Marines will start taking them out. The problem is, though, that if that stalker comes with a zealot, that forces the Marines back, allows the stalker to engage out of range, and all sorts of fun stuff. Jinro hiding a secondary scout up here in the upper, well, I guess it's just a central position. I was about to say upper right. So he will be pulling in with a secondary scout sometime soon to check for that expansion. And here you go, lone stalker, can't do much. Were there a zealot forcing those Marines back, this could have been a different situation, but there isn't. So it's not. And the stalker will be now forced back to the center of the map, and we'll see what he is going to do. Could be checking for that secondary SCP scout. Might also just pull right into that natural expansion, which he will be doing. Now here comes that secondary SCV scout. Could get by the stalker. Oh my gosh, that's unfortunate. aLive just now missing the SCV, and he's going to get that scouting info that he wants. Also will be moving in the main, wants to check additional production buildings, tech, everything like that. As you can see, we've got couple of warp gates coming on through, as well as a robotics, all of which he's scouted out. So now he knows. Now he is fully aware of what his opponent can produce. Jinro now finally gets that bunker. He's also going to continue to form some semblance of a wall. Probably not going to go for a full wall off, but having enough buildings to try to funnel your opponent and prevent the zealots from getting a full surround and make it more difficult for your opponent's units to move up into your natural expansion. That's what Jinro is attempting to do here. Had placed down 2 more barracks, is coming out with that stim pack research. Both of these racks without attachments as of yet. Jinro now also coming out here with the forge. Taking a look back over here for aLive. Not a lot of early game units, is just now finishing those warp gates. Probably going to see another warp in soon. Wouldn't be too surprised. Also coming out with that first observer. That will allow him to get a full scout of all the production buildings that Jinro has in play to let him know what he himself is up against this game. Ooh, reactor coming out. That is right. Okay, there we go. Reactor coming out over here on this rack, so we'll be churning out double Marines out of that. Also another tech lab, allowing him to go Marauder heavy with the double Marines out of that racks. Hopefully we will be seeing some more upgrades as well. Combat shield and concussive shell is of course what we expect. And then here comes the starport and the reactor on the racks, all very standard. Once more, he'll be able to grab that starport once it's done, lift off the factory, drop the starport in its place, allowing him to produce those double medevacs. And a lot of times when those first two medevacs are in play and the stim pack research is complete, that's when you will see that Terran player push out. So we'll keep an eye on Jinro, see if he decides to do that. He is in fact actually coming out with that full wall off, interestingly enough. You don't really see this that often, except of course against Zerg. Against Protoss this isn't quite as common, but it still serves the purpose of preventing those melee units. You know, against Zerg, you do it to stop Zerglings from streaming into your base. And this prevents those Zealots once more from being able to get up and get a full surround on the bunker, for example, get within range of the bio. So it still does serve its purpose, but once more, just not quite as common as you see that. Jinro lays down the scan after spotting that observer, takes that out immediately. Factory will probably be moving out to scout. You'll see that quite often, and here come those double medevacs now for Jinro. Now once more, a lot of times, once those medevacs pop, you'll see a push, so we'll see if Jinro does decide to do that. He also has that level 1 weapon upgrade. Pretty much going to assume right now that that push is coming. It's a perfect timing push there with that level 1 weapon upgrade finishing just when those medevacs do pop. Also have that combat shield coming through, and here we go, Jinro now moving out. Let's see what he can do. aLive does have quite a few sentries. However, with those medevacs in play, Jinro can of course do something like drop right in the main, completely bypass that force field wall. Blink research is coming out for aLive, also coming out with a few immortals that will certainly help against the Marauders. Level 1 weapon and the charge upgrade as well as the level 1 armor. Lots of upgrades here coming out for aLive. That Soul Pylon powering it all. Here comes the bio, also peeling off with a Marine. We'll be scouting to see if aLive was bold enough to go for a third. That is not the case. Factory scout moving out right now. Now that charge upgrade is only about halfway finished, but he's going to be very close to finish these 1-1 upgrades. There's the scan. aLive also pulling back here with these stalkers. Wants to make sure that he can take care of any medevacs if they do try to drop. The more time that goes on here, the less likely Jinro will be able to do much damage. Just kind of dancing back and forth right now. You can see pulling a little bit closer towards the middle. Once more, the more time that he lets pass, the more warpins that aLive has, the more immortals he'll be able to get out. And yeah, Jinro's attempted aggression really did nothing more than have aLive freak out for a half a second, but that's pretty much about it. Not much damage will be coming from this at all. Is starting to work his way up into continuous upgrades. We do have another engineering bay coming out, as well as that armory. Of course, you need that armory to get the additional upgrades past 1-1 as a Terran player. Observer Scout moving out. This is the second, as the first one did get taken care of. Templar Archives, as well as the 2-2 upgrades now coming out for aLive. Both players really focusing here on the macro. Well, let's see if aLive decides to actually take a third right now. He's moving up here with the forces. Should be able to take out that Marine, of course. Unless he just completely misses it, like we just saw happen. All right. Couple of forces over here for Jinro. Jinro also sitting with a small semblance of an army here in the center of the map. He does have full control of the towers. Hasn't spotted that observer quite yet. Jinro coming out with a few more racks. He has also finished that additional command center, and that's morphing in to an orbital command. So we'll see if he decides to lay that down over here or over here. A lot of times this particular position is kind of needed to have a planetary fortress, just because it's so vulnerable. So yeah, he will be taking that orbital up over here into this position. We do have also a third base coming out over here for aLive as he drops the Nexus pylon and a couple of assimilators. Very, very, very unaggressive early game here from both players. We saw Jinro attempt to do some aggression, but once more, aLive was properly prepared for that, and Jinro decided not to do anything. And there we go. Just as I mentioned how passive this has been, we see a drop. Drop coming forward in the main. aLive does have a few forces to deal with that. We'll be warping in a few more. He should be okay here. We'd also have this small force over here. Is that going to push into the expansion and force a cancel? It's possible. Forcing the liftoff there, lost a couple of units. Here we go. Stimming up. Go to force that cancel and then lift off and get out of here, Jinro. That would be perfect for you. Does it. Forces the cancel. Beautiful. And then it's going to want to peel back right now as aLive is coming to help deal with this. That was absolutely excellent there. Blink Stalkers will be forcing Jinro to engage for a moment. Does manage to get that lift off and pull away here, dropping a few of his forces to keep the Blink Stalkers at bay. We also have this drop over here, so finally, that's so hilarious. That stuff like that always happens. I'm like, oh, this isn't happening, or this is occurring, or this isn't occurring. And then immediately something that counteracts that statement takes place. So as soon as I say there's been no action, we see some aggressive posture there from Jinro, dropping in multiple directions. Forcing that cancel was huge. Now aLive does have this base coming through. That's about halfway done. He's also coming out with this one as well. We have another command center building. No, we don't. So we'll be coming out with 2 Nexus right now. Building one up here, which is actually near complete, and then getting that one as well. And there we go. Jinro now also coming out with a 4th base himself. So at the very least, they will be on par. That is important. A few Zealots moving forward. I believe that was for scouting. Don't know why he felt like he needed so many, though. This guy's a goner. He says, you know what? I'll take out a Marine in the process. My life for ire, he says. Alright, gonna take a quick look here. Want to make sure that we're not missing any drops or anything like that. Ghost transition for Jinro. Jinro does have those 2-2 upgrades. Has yet to work up those 3-3. Another command center being built in this position. And then we have this one up here, which aLive is aware of. Spotted that there with his observer. So after that action, we go back into some kind of dull gameplay. Some macro-intensive focused play. Missile turret here in the center of the map for spotting observers, possibly for DT. Although DT isn't happening yet here by aLive. A couple gateways there, unwarpified. Should be taking care of that. There you go. Do need to keep an eye on that group of medevacs over there. That duo of medevacs. Zealot gets taken out as he attempts to grab the tower. 3-3 upgrades now coming through. Also the level 1 ship upgrades, and that is for those Vikings to deal with Colossus. Speaking of Colossus, well, there are none in play. He's got a robotics bay, but that is coming out with that upgrade, of course, for the Warp Prism movement speed, so that will allow him to do some Warp Prism harass much more effectively. And we are, of course, assuming... Did he scout that out? No, he hasn't. He hasn't scouted out the robo. He's just assuming that that will be coming eventually, and that's a safe assumption. That Colossus will eventually be coming from your Protoss opponent. However, right now it is just Charge, Zealot, Archon, and High Templar, with 8 High Templar in play at the moment. Must keep a constant eye on both players' vision. You never know when something funky is going to happen. Dark Shrine coming through, level 2 shield upgrades, as well as the level 3 armor. There's a loaded up Warp Prism with High Templar. However, that isn't so much for drop harass, although it could be for econ harass, dropping those to lay storms down on expansion. The big advantage to loading up your High Templar here in a Warp Prism is that during an engagement you can avoid the snipes and EMPs from Ghost, and then you land down those High Templar and lay down the storm. It's exactly what you can do, and that it does appear to be what aLive is planning here. Got these forces over here. aLive now moving across the center of the map. Command center building right in this position. I do wonder if that was going to be a planetary. I think it is going to be some stationary planetary defense. Sensor tower getting dropped right here, allowing him to get good vision as to any mobilization in the center of the map. Scanned by Jinro, spots the forces of aLive, so he does, of course, spot that there are no Colossus here. Here comes the push now. aLive moving up into this expansion. Jinro leading with those Vikings just in case Colossus show up. Also trying to snipe that Warp Prism would be good. Here comes the drop though. In the main, it takes out the robotics bay, so even if aLive wanted to make Colossus right now, he cannot. We did see that storm from the High Templar, but you know what? Doesn't really matter because it's mostly Marauders here. He will be taking out those Templar archives. We have a drop taking place over here. That gets taken care of, but I do still believe he did some damage. And Jinro still doing damage over here. Big push coming towards the center of the map. We'll take a quick look at the workers killed. He didn't kill a lot of workers, so it looks like not a lot of damage was done over here by that drop. We do also have some DT. DT getting warped into this position. Bulk of Jinro's forces over here. This drop finally getting mopped up, but he took out not only Templar Archives, but the Robotics Bay forcing aLive to rebuild both of those. Nice EMP, softening up some of those zealots. Have those high Templar in the back, and once again, they want to try to stay away from those EMP and snipes. Here come the Ghost. Ooh, ooh. Cloaked Ghost landing down some EMPs, doing a lot of damage. See aLive lifted off a few of those high Templar to try to make sure he doesn't lose that. Oh no, here come the Vikings to take out the... Is he going to get it? Engagement over here, stimmed up Bio. Doesn't get the Warp Prism, unfortunately, there for Jinro. Scan taking out some DT. Cloak Ghost moving forward. aLive still does not have an Observer over here. There we go, finally coming out with that Observer. Can deal with those Cloaked Ghosts. That was a huge problem for him for quite a while. With those Cloaked Ghosts, Jinro was able to harass quite a bit. Now 3 Observers over here. Lots of DT. Of course, they do a lot of damage, but with that scan, he's able to spot them and take them out before that happens. Continuing to push here. No reinforcements here from Jinro. And actually aLive is able to force that back. Pretty interesting engagement between those two. We saw those Ghosts do so much damage there because they were cloaked, and aLive had no means of spotting that without any observers by the bulk of his army. That was very unfortunate for him. aLive moving out with his War Prism right now. Looks like he will be attempting to do some harass here in Jinro's upper left-hand expansion. Let's see what we get warped in. Could be DT. DT would actually be pretty devastating over here. Like 1 or 2 DT and a couple Zealots. Looks like he's just going straight for those Dark Templar. No more counter harass here coming from Jinro at the moment. We do have some nukes in production, so we will be seeing some wonderful nuke play. And that's not me being Terran biased, it's just fun to watch nukes. Fun to watch nukes, fun to watch banelings. Also fun to watch storms. Those big epic things, epic splash damage is enjoyable. Enjoyable to observe. DT gets scanned and taken out there. So Jinro is safe for now. We'll also be coming out with that missile turret to allow him to cloak any additional harass that may be coming in the future. aLive now mobilizing towards the center of the map. He has finally made that transition into Colossus. There's only one Viking in play though. Jinro not prepared. You know, he hadn't seen Colossus up until this point, so right now he is not ready for this at all. Master Repair in the planetary doesn't really matter though. Getting a full surround with those Zealots, the Archon splash damage, plus those Colossus in the back. Wasn't able to save that. aLive does want to be a little bit wary about engaging, that there are so many Ghosts, and a lot of EMPs could really be an issue for him. Viking spotting the War Prism, doing some damage. War Prism is quicker though. With that upgrade, we'll be able to pull away. Dark Templar trying to chase down that stimmed up Marauder. However, that stimmed up Marauder with his reinforcements here, they all set. Oh no, does he die? Oh, very close. Very close to losing that. Now Jinro does have this base over here. We noticed him build it before. However, that is a planetary. That was that stationary defense. Also coming out with a planetary over here. Not rebuilding this one as of now. I think he's just going to focus on saturating this for the moment. Another expansion coming out here for aLive. Let's take a look at those upgrades. Going to expect them to be 3-3 across the board, and actually the 3 shields also coming through. We do have 3-3 upgrades now. Jinro now moving out with his Ghost. Keep in mind, we saw those nukes. Here we go. Nuke on the high ground. This will be forcing aLive back. And this is going to be a crucial moment. We have to make sure we spot all those nukes. That nuke gets canceled. That does still use up the nuke, though. If you start a nuke and cancel it, the nuke is still consumed, is the word I will use. Cloaked Ghost trying to find a good position. We've got another Cloaked Ghost over here. Here comes an engagement. Nice defensive nuke here by Jinro. That should force aLive back. Ghost over here taking a couple pop shots. Nuke planned for this position. Let's see if aLive spots it. Hasn't spotted it yet. There we go. Finally spots it. Now the nuke will still land and it will still do some damage, but won't be killing off any workers, which is really the primary objective of that type of a nuke. War Prism gets spotted. And that gets taken out. That's unfortunate. He didn't warp in anything over there. Was trying to do some counter harass, however that got spotted there by Jinro, able to take that out with the Viking, and now he is safe. I don't believe there are any more War Prisms in play. No, not at the moment. A few more nukes getting produced, one more in production right now. Let me see how many he has. He's got 2 available at the moment. aLive now moving towards the center of the map, also working to get this expansion up and running. He's got the Vespene coming from it, no minerals at the moment. Is he oversaturated somewhere or what? That's alright, and that's alright too. So not really sitting oversaturated, so he's okay for now. Scans the army position, moves forward with those cloak ghosts. How many ghosts does he have in play? That's another thing I wonder. 16 in play at the moment. So lots of potential. There we go. Another nuke. aLive spots it. Immediately checking those expansions. Pretty much the first place you check. You check the bulk of your army, and you check those bases to make sure there's no nukes going down on your economy. 2 nukes getting laid down at the same time over here. That's going to do some pretty massive damage. That nuke does some structural damage to the shield, but that's basically it. Double nukes in this position with more nukes in production. Drops the Templar Archives. Only takes out the shield, though, of the Nexus. No actual base damage at all. Drops the Templar Archives as well as that assimilator there. So cuts back on some of that Vespene gathering, which is, of course, important and beneficial. 4 nukes about to finish here for Jinro, as he does appear to continue to keep this up. Now, aLive is a little hard-pressed here. He, of course, needs to make sure he defends against this type of harass. But as a result, he's also not doing a lot of damage. We'll be seeing a nuke to take out these cannons over here, as well as that pylon. aLive in the center of the map, still hasn't really moved out. Where's that other nuke? There we go. Another nuke's right over here. That is a defensive nuke. It's gonna do, ooh, close! Oh, this High Templar. Very close to their own demise. Another nuke getting planned for over here. aLive pushes onto the expansion, does take it out. Vikings will be chasing the forces forward. Now we still have that nuke plan to drop. Jinro better be careful. No! Jinro! What the heck? You gotta be kidding me. Did that really just happen? I do not. Jinro just nuked his entire army. Unbelievable. You know, that happens from time to time. It doesn't make it any easier to watch. Very unfortunate there for Jinro. That was, oh man. He wasn't necessarily that far behind in that game. I think they were honestly about even, but nuking the bulk of your army pretty much means GG. Wow. I have to say, this was quite an enjoyable game to watch. It was a decent back and forth, lots of macro that took place, lots of harass. But man, oh man, did this end on a bad note. Jinro, after forcing back the units of aLive, forgets to cancel his nuke. This one ghost, it did it all. Fully nukes his entire army. How sad. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the game. As always, if you like the content, please subscribe. Keep watching and keep owning. One more time, huh?